Good day, everyone. For those who just joined us, thank you for joining us today. We have, quite an overwhelming response to this panel discussion about revenue management in the time of AI. So obviously, this is a very, very hot topic, and it's great to have professionals join us from all around the world. I think as far as Europe in some cases. We already have about 60 people dialed in, so I think we're just going to get started shortly. So very quickly, my name is Shini. I am a director at Horwath HTL based in Singapore, and I'm also the technology lead for Horwath HTL in Asia. And then for those of you who may not know, Horwath HTL is the only global advisory firm that is focused entirely on hotels, tourism, and leisure. And we work with hotel owners, operators, and investors on anything from feasibility studies to operator selection, performance benchmarking, and technology strategy. So a little bit about the Tech Edit Live. This is a brand new series and a platform that we've created to bring together the sharpest minds in hospitality technology to discuss trends and innovations that's reshaping our industry. So the hospitality industry is an industry that we all have grown to love. And with the rapid innovation and developments happening in technology today, it's definitely an area of disruption that we cannot avoid to discuss and we cannot deny. So this Tech Edit Live series is about genuine conversations where technology is taking us, what's working in practice, and what hotel professionals like you need to know to stay ahead. So today we're going to talk about revenue management in the age of AI, and we chose this topic as our inaugural session because we had a very exciting and pivotal moment. Revenue management has always been one of the most data intensive, analytically demanding disciplines in our industry. And now AI is just fundamentally changing what's possible. So we're seeing, whether it's pricing decisions that used to take hours or days to process, happen in real time, simultaneous demand forecast that accounts for hundreds, thousands of variables, or systems that learn and adapt without manual intervention. So for some of us who've been around for a while, especially in the revenue management practice, is genuinely very mind-blowing. But here's what matters most. It's not just about the technology getting smarter and faster. It's about GMs, revenue professionals, commercial teams making better decisions quicker, and how you need to redesign your organization, reskill the team to be able to take advantage of technology. It's about managing the expectations of hotel owners and asset managers, making the right technology decisions, and being competitive. So I'm sure I speak for my panelists and myself. We would like everyone to leave the session today with a very clear understanding of how AI is changing revenue management and improving the quality of decision making today. So over the next 50 minutes with the panelists, we'll talk about the evolution of revenue management as a practice, how AI is supercharging this discipline, how we need to rethink organizational design and the skills our teams will need, the direction that revenue management is heading, and how we can all be a part of this journey. On our panel today, I'm very, very excited to have three perspectives that really matter, starting with Professor Sherry Kimes, Emeritus Professor of Operations Management at the Cornell Peter and Stephanie Nolan School of Hotel Administration at Cornell University. Professor Kimes is a globally recognized authority on revenue management, pricing, and capacity strategy. Her work lies at the intersection of research and practice, organization advisory, and expert witness in matters involving pricing practices, revenue management systems, and distribution strategies across hospitality, restaurants, ticketing, and other capacity-constrained service industries. We're very privileged to have you with us today, Professor Kimes. And then we
Well,
have
thanks so much for
Jürgen.
having me.
Yeah, of course. And then we have Jürgen Otelli, Managing Director, APAC at Ideas, who's building the tools that are actually deploying AI in revenue management systems across thousands of properties globally. Jürgen has 3 decades of experience in revenue management and leads a high-performing team of revenue and profit optimization professionals across APAC at Ideas. With a strong passion for statistical analysis and data-driven decision-making, he brings extensive expertise in developing and executing revenue and profit strategies for the hospitality industry. Welcome, Jürgen.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, Kong Tiong Hwa, Cluster General Manager of Park Royal Collection Pickering and Beach Road, based in Singapore. And he lives with these revenue management decisions every single day and can tell us what's actually working on the ground versus what's just good marketing. And over the last 4 years in particular, and I'm sure Tiongwan will talk about that later, Tiongwan has led his team through a very significant digital transformation journey from revenue management to real-time business reporting, data infrastructure design to robotics process automation as well. Thank you, Tiongwan, for taking the time today.
Thank you.
And after the panel, we will have 15 minutes of live Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions and comments in the chat as the panel discussion progresses. Benjamin, our intern, will be monitoring the chat and synthesizing the questions, and he will be hosting the Q&A after as well. So don't take it easy on him. So let's dive in right away. To help us set the stage, Professor Kimes, again, incredibly thankful to have you with us today. Absolute legend in revenue management, and you've dedicated your life's work to this discipline. So help us set the stage here. So revenue management evolved dramatically over the last decades, from the days of static rate cards to manual yield management. What do you see as some of the most significant inflection points in this journey, and how significant really is this whole AI revolution in this evolution?
Well, the biggest change I've seen, it used to be, since revenue management sort of came out of reservations. It was very tactical, and it was all about rooms management, inventory management, and so forth. And it was probably about 15, 20 years or so ago, it became more of a had more of a marketing bent, because before revenue management, we would basically say, hey, sales and marketing, what should the rates be? And then we would just kind of allocate accordingly. And then it became much more of a conversation with marketing. And so now you see commercial teams where you're integrating all of these different aspects. And in terms of AI, it has amazing possibilities, because when you start to look at what revenue management is all about, and what I taught for 10 zillion years, I used to tell my students I've been doing it for longer than before they were born. But the forecasting, the optimization, the looking at all of the reports, coming up with summarizing all those sorts of things. That's something that AI can help us with. And then when you also start to look at hotels that don't have a computerized revenue management system, which is a substantial percentage of them, it puts them more in the ball game, really. So they're able to, if Jurgen hasn't been successful in selling them an idea system, they still have some possibilities for being able to move forward a bit with their revenue management. So I think this is for me, I just see AI as being a really transformational part of how revenue management is going to evolve. And it's pretty exciting. And at the same time, it's kind of scary, because we don't know exactly how it's going to evolve.
Yeah, I think particularly, you've also written a lot about how revenue management is both an art and a science. And then given that we've always been, there's been so much, manual intervention and whatnot, and then now seeing how rapid decision-making can be with machine learning and artificial intelligence, really, and then over, I'd love to pick your brain more as the discussion progresses. And everyone's talking about AI in revenue management. I think if we start putting pennies in the jar every time someone mentions the word AI, we'll get rich pretty quickly. But I think there's a real gap between the promise and the reality on the ground. How much of this is hype? How much of this is real? And what can AI genuinely do right now that wasn't possible 18 months ago?
The hype is a good thing. I mean, the word AI, the letters AI are used continuously, and we'd probably be able to make more money by just, like you say, counting those pennies and putting it in a hotel and see how much money it can generate. But AI has several components to it, and I think that's where it sometimes becomes confusing. So AI can be different types of AI, right? And we've always been in the area of mathematical AI. We have excelled in that. Ideas is pretty good at that. And now all the other different types of AI are coming on board. So once you have your mathematical AI there all sorted, you can put the agentic AI on there, and you can put generative AI on there, and then you can really work with all the different data streams in your property that in the past you probably would not have been able to do in a very good way, or at best in a bit of a clunky way, I would say. So that's where AI makes a huge difference. There is hype, yes. What is the hype? It's different levels of AI, I would say. There's a confusion between AI and automation as well, very often, where to me, automation is just executing a task when I tell you to and press a button and do it. Whereas AI really helps me to think better. It helps me make better decisions. It helps me to look better at my commercial strategy and those kinds of things. So that's where I think some people get a bit confused. What is it? It's definitely not automation. Is there automation in there? Yes, there is, but it's not only automation. It's a lot more than that.
Maybe you can give us just to help us guide us along, like specifically to ideas as a revenue management system. What would be a few AI capabilities or features that is in the product today?
So if you look at today, and sometimes I describe it in a way, if you get in the car and you want to go from A to B, and there's a couple of curves along the way, you want to be able to look out the front window, not out only in the rear view mirror. So a lot of times we look in the rear view mirror only, and we did make our decisions based on what has happened in the past. If you do that in a car, you're probably going to end up next to the road somewhere. And with AI today, you're able to look the other way. So your screen clears up, you can look forward, and you can see what's coming, and you can, based on what's coming, where the curves are that you can now see, you can decide what you're going to do. So in a very simple way, that's kind of what AI can already do today. There are already other components in there as well, where it's able to much easier and better analyze data, bring data together, look at the right data together in a much faster way than ever before. I mean, I don't want to use the word Excel too often because, that takes pennies out of that box, I guess, if we do that. But it's just a big difference there how that works together.
And Chonghua, because I believe at the property, I've seen some of your dashboards, completely like super impressive. Maybe you can tell us, what's fundamentally different about how you approach pricing and inventory management today versus say 5 years ago with all the AI tools that you have in place at your properties.
Thank you. So I must say, many years ago, 1995, you start with human decision, look at simple spreadsheets, and it got into a lot of rule-based decisions. Last 5 years is all about a lot about machine learning, and gradually it got into 100% on algorithm. So we run 100% of AI algorithm on RMS. We do not have any human intervention to make the pricing strategy and also inventory management. Hence, we are able to uplift our RevPAR by leaps and bounds. A good time, maybe 15-18% a year on year. Last year and this year, just take February as an example, we uplift our RevPAR by at least 20%. So we are 100% on running algorithm on the RMS. We do not overwrite. Every decision we make is based on data. There's no I think, I thought, and assume, because that is very much human. And many times we are very reactive if you start to overwrite the algorithm or the RMS, because it's actually the world now is I call it a war zone, because it's every hour pickup, 24/7, and the distribution has been then very disrupted over the years. It has gone vertical, horizontal. We practice with co-pilot and coexist with AI now over the last 3 to 5 years. We learn how to co-pilot them and live with them. And then the real-time monitoring of many other data that comes in, like example, air tickets, even the marketing activities in the different continents, different countries. We are able to combine all this on the machine learning, on AI algorithm to make decisions. So human can never process the data in the real time, 365 days. Hence, our our team has learned how to live with that. Yeah.
And then Sherry, and I know we had this conversation also a couple of days back, and now this is one of those conversations that we can go really deep. But Tiongwa, I'm curious, how did you get your team to this point? Because obviously this didn't happen overnight. So you're talking about a lot of change management. You're talking about kind of almost redefining what trust and control means. In the past, like the days of the GM saying, hey, this is what the occupancy needs to be because that's the budget we need to hit. So by hook or by crook, you sell the rooms to get there. But this is a very far cry from what you're talking about trusting systems and algorithms. That's I mean, help us along here because I think sometimes we can perceive AI recommendations like a black box, right? And you talk about machine learning, you don't know what's happening in there. So how do we know that the AI is making the right decisions? And then in this question, Jürgen, I'm sure you have an opinion as well. What level of oversight is needed? And when things go south, who is to blame?
If you happen to take a plane, the pilot doesn't work from the moment you take off until the moment you reach the next destination. So that's exactly what I call AI, right? Of course, we do measurements, we do evaluations, combining AI and human intelligence in the initial stage. I must say RMS is created by a bunch of brilliant people. Yeah, there's mathematical things at the back. So you generally has to believe in that. Of course, we do a measurement in terms of your RGI performance, your MPI, your ARI performance. By looking at year on year, month to month, you actually can see the optimization that comes in. If you start to disrupt, they are like the little kid at the back. If you start to control them, they will start to throw tantrum and they start to distort all your pricing. So I am very confident the change management that we have is all about lifelong learning. I'm also proud of Sherry's students before. So yeah, I think lifelong learning is critical. You have to learn to believe and adopt to the new era, which is AI.
Yeah, maybe to add to that as well, John mentioned, what we see a lot is the wanting to be in control, right, all the time, whereas you take, for example, you have a young child, and the young child is learning how to cycle, how to get on a bicycle, one of those little ones with side wheels. When do you take the wheels off? For some parents, it's much quicker than with other parents. It doesn't depend so much on the child. The child will cycle without the wheels. They just need to feel it, and they're good. It takes maybe a couple seconds. It doesn't take that long. But at what point do you trust the child to be able to cycle without the wheels? It's the same with the revenue management system or with technology that you use. It doesn't have to be an RMS, it could be other technology as well. At what point do you trust it, and do you not have this urge to want to constantly be in control? So you need to build that relationship in a way with the technology, and that's part of change management, obviously, when you implement something like this. And sometimes it's okay, let me try it out for a week this way and then see what the result is. If that didn't work, then you do it differently the next time, and you give it a different instruction or opinion or whatever it is that you do. So it's a process. It's not an immediate thing. It takes a bit of time sometimes.
And if you go back and look at how when revenue management systems, when they were started, revenue managers were encouraged to override. And hotel chains, I know hotel chains that tracked to see what did the revenue manager do versus the system. If the system was better, they'd go back to the revenue manager and go, excuse me, that didn't work so well. Or sometimes the revenue manager was correct, and then they went back to the system, and it was more learnings. But then the other thing, when we were talking about this, that struck me, I just saw a study that was done on medicine and with physicians' advice, and then also AI. And in 2024, they were kind of comparing physicians, AI, and the combination. Before in 2024, the combination worked best. That was the most accurate. Last year, AI was best. And so do doctors still make mistakes? Yes, they still make mistakes. Do we still make? Of course, we still make mistakes. But I think it's one of those kind of like what Jürgen was saying. It's a matter of starting to gain the trust, and and it's kind of, and I also think I mean, revenue management. I do think not to decry revenue management, but I think medicine might be even a lot more complex than what we're dealing with. So it's kind of interesting how it evolves. But before we didn't trust it, and now, as Tiong Hua said, they haven't had any overrides. So we have changed.
Yeah, that also reminds me of how in some of these tennis Grand Slam tournaments, they have done away from actual people calling on the line, but everything is completely AI now because they've just been able to track how the AI monitoring has been far more accurate than the human judgment calls. But and Professor Kimes, with AI now democratizing revenue management capabilities. It used to be that only the large hotel chains were able to afford, revenue management systems or have the muscle to be able to develop those skills, be able to hire the brightest minds for revenue management roles. How do you see the lower barriers of entry, whether it's in developing or startups developing new revenue management systems, kind of leveling the playing field and changing the competitive dynamics in that industry? What does this mean to independent hotels or smaller hotel groups who, for the longest time, they were not able to afford the expensive revenue management tools?
Well, first of all, you got to have clean data, and I have two rules of data. Number one, you can't get it. Number two, when you get it, it's dirty. But the good thing with AI is it can clean your dirty data. And to kind of give an example on this, the other day I decided I used to do a big revenue management project in my class where I would give the students it was a class, right? So they had 90 days of detailed data, and I gave them a bunch of other things, and then they had to develop a system. I put all that into AI the other day, and I said, okay, here's the data. Here's the assignment. Analyze this for me and put together a deck that you would submit to my class. And you know how long it took it? 15 minutes, maybe. And I was like, wow. I mean, if I was still teaching that class, I'd be having to change my assignment, right? But you look at that, I mean, and it was able to come up with pretty good recommendations. And they're probably not as good as what you get from a computerized one, but they're better than not having any. The other thing that you could absolutely do is that, I mean, hotels are inundated with different reports. So you get your star report, you get your travel click report, on and on and on. And I've seen those sitting in stacks on people's desks and they don't have the time to go through them. You could just put those straight into AI and say, hey, what does this tell me? And so just doing those, putting your data in and putting the reports in, you could really start to move yourself forward. And it's something that I've talked to some people who said, oh, I'm afraid to put my star report in. What if somebody else gets it? Most chains, first of all, are in a closed system. And if you're in a paid version of some sort of AI, you're fine with doing that sort of thing. So don't be afraid. I mean, it can do a lot more than you think it might be able to.
And Jürgen, do you see this availability and ease of access into these AI tools something that is worrying or encouraging for a revenue management system like Ideas?
To me, it's super encouraging, to be honest. I personally don't always understand how you cannot have a revenue management system. It's like building a kitchen without an oven or a housekeeper without a cart. How can a revenue manager not have a revenue management system? So the fact that it's more accessible to smaller properties and different types of levels of revenue managers, because not everyone has the same understanding of revenue management yet, right? And that's where AI can help. And I think that is very, very encouraging.
And from your experience working with, a lot of the hotels and hotel chains, what are some of the most significant missed opportunities that you've seen, whether it's with whether it's data question or whether it's having the technology but not having a supporting culture? Like, what are some of these pitfalls that you've commonly seen? I mean, maybe Tiong Hua, you have a perspective on that too.
Yeah, I think what we see is the inertia that exists for hotels that don't have a system today. And they tend to wait and hum and ha and then think a lot about it, maybe overthink it, and rather than taking action and getting the benefit from it, come up with reasons why not to do it yet. And I think that is just, I know this is a cliche phrase, leaving so much money on the table for many properties that it's a waste of time. And if we could get past that, then that would be great. But that's one of the biggest, or in my mind, significant things that happens today, unfortunately.
And then Chonghua, when you're given that you use these tools every day, what's one AI powered capability that's genuinely changed your decision-making process? Or one area where you think the technology still needs human judgment to get it right? I find it quite incredible that I think you mentioned the other day that you've not overridden any of the recommendations in the last 12 months. Is that correct? Yes. So do you think that's like, you don't need human judgment anymore, and just leave it to the machines? No, revenue managers need to, I don't know, reskill in something else. Like what's your take?
So I think since 2023, we are on a new generation of RMS. It's called Gen 3. Hence, we start to learn how to live and create trust with them. So last 12 months, okay, I mean, our RMS is quite smart. They can generate reports that how many times the revenue managers actually went to override the system. So recently we generated a report. It's actually 0 intervention over the last 365 days. Kudos to the team. So I believe that over the last 1 or 2 years, we have established that trust, and also we have established that algorithm, the very solid algorithm AI into the RMS. Do you still need human? Absolutely. Human. I mean, AI can't detect any change in festive season. Example, our Chinese New Year actually stack on a different month. The Hari Raya stack on the different weeks and months. Hence, you need to stack them together and tell the AI that, hey, the Chinese New Year next year is on the 6th and 7th of February. You must compare with this year on the 16th and 17th of February. So you still need human to pilot the AI. There's an announcement of visa free for China PRC market, from Chinese market. AI can't pick it up. You have to go in and tell the AI, look, there is a high demand coming in the next 7 days. You have to actually on the high demand. There are some geopolitical situation happened in the different continents. You have to tell the AI you are foreseeing a trough period. So we still need human, because human interaction, human communication is almost instant. But algorithm takes time to recalculate and regenerate. So yep, absolutely you need human, but feed the AI with the information, feed the AI on your demand calendars, feed the AI on the latest news that you probably hear from your sales and marketing folks. If you know that there's a concert that came in, you have to go into the system and inform or put in a peak period on that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going
So
to take on a contrarian side. If I was the owner, and I just heard the two of you say that there's no human interaction, they just take the recommendations. Why do I have to pay for it? Why do I have to pay for a revenue manager? And I mean, that's a very valid question. And then the other part, which going less contrarian, is that, I mean, well, actually still is a little contrarian, is that can AI do the search to find the holidays and do all of that? Yes, I think so. But then what this also means on a positive thing for revenue managers is that, I guess a couple of things. One is the routine parts of the job can go to AI, which frees up more time for the other sorts of things. It also means that we've often had complained about a shortage of qualified revenue managers, and it's difficult to find a good person, not a good person, but a qualified person. And this helps with that issue as well. So I mean, it's got kind of a if I look at it from the owner perspective, I see one thing, but then I could also see from the revenue manager's perspective, how does this change the job? Kind of back to your point too about how do you do labor planning and so forth. And then for someone in revenue management, what's your career path going to be? How are things going to play out for you?
Yeah, and given at at Horwath, we interface with owners a lot. So I'm actually going to push on this point a little bit more. So as an owner, and obviously I'm looking at maximizing the GOP of my hotel assets. Do I really need a revenue manager to advise the machine that Chinese New Year is going to be different? And I'm sure someone in sales and marketing can do that. What would be the is the revenue manager going into an existential crisis? Or do you see a future where someone else could take on the revenue management responsibility?
Chingy, if I may answer that. Okay, so let's put it in perspective. What we see is only RMS on pricing, inventory management. The revenue managers has a lot more tasks at the back end to do. So yeah, so that's the storefront. We can automate all the storefront, but the back end, the connectivity, all the rate codes, or the inventory management system, how do you then adjust the back end? That back end is very, very critical for the success of the hotel, because the distribution now is very, very different from the last time. The distribution is very a lot more static, a lot more simplified. But since COVID, I think a lot of companies use the 2 years of COVID to really build the vertical and horizontal distribution. So there's a lot more complexity at the back end versus the front. So for the front, the RMF can do all the jobs, but the back end is a very, very critical role now, including distribution. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Jürgen,
I was going to jump in as well and just add a little bit to that as well. I think that first of all, AI is going to make revenue management much more approachable for different types of people, right? And not only revenue managers that have different levels of understanding of revenue management as a function, but also different people within a hotel. So if you look at a sales and marketing director, or you look at a general manager or the revenue person, with the help of AI, they will interact differently with a revenue management system, and they will get to understand it better and they get answers to what they want. So it will help there. The revenue manager's function, in my mind, will change a little bit. It will be much less preparing reports, because a lot of revenue managers prepare reports. It's scary how much do that and how much time is spent on that. That will go away. So that time obviously frees up. So that opens up a whole new possibility of thinking commercially and having a much better defined and developed commercial function within a property, or potentially combined with a bunch of properties and clustering it and getting a better person to manage multiple properties. You as an owner, you'd spend a bit more money on that person, or maybe you hire 2 or 3 to manage 10, 15 properties, whatever the number is, but you get a much better outcome, and your commercial function is just so much stronger when you do it that way. So I don't think the revenue person will go away. I think the development of the revenue person will speed up. In my mind, it will be much faster than it was in the past, and they will do just different things. They will, and some stuff is automated, like the mundane stuff is automated. Why do I need to update rates in a channel manager? I don't want to do that because it's waste of time. Same as preparing reports. I don't need to do that. All those things would go away. But then again, you strengthen that whole commercial part of your business.
Yeah, I was actually going to direct that to you, Jürgen. So, I was going to ask you whether, from all your work with the different hotels and hotel groups, whether you see a change in how teams are set up, given, AI is now alleviating a lot of the manual roles. And also, if you, based on your experience, what is the profile of some of the most successful revenue managers who are thriving in a time where they have all these AI tools in their fingertips. Like if you have to, like whether it's the best in class or those that you find them really excelling in that, like what are some of the qualities or attributes?
So first of all, yes, we do see a lot more of this clustering happening. Right before the call today, the webinar, we were meeting with a potential client, and we were talking about that, and they were changing their organizational setup to be much more clustered, and they were doing that step by step, because sometimes it's hard to change an organization overnight. But so that happens a lot, and some companies are very strong at it. If I just think Hilton, for example, they're very strong at their cluster revenue management setups that they have and the way they organize it. So that is very strong. If we look at the different people that you then have, again, that would make the whole difference, right? If you look at what type of person that is, above all, the person has to be super curious. Question everything. Why is that? How did that happen? Where did it come from? So that they fully understand what's going on. So the curious thing is always, to me, is an important part. If I interview a revenue manager when I was working in a hotel company, then if they don't have questions for me, I'm like, well, you don't have questions for me. Are you even curious about what I do, what I think, how I think you should be working, or what I think about whatever it is? That didn't really gel that well. So that's the first thing. They do need to have a sense of data understanding in my mind. And then I think that's where the clustering will come in and be much more important, because you can get that better level. Better is the wrong word, because there's no right or wrong level, but you get that more educated level of understanding of data. I think that's going to become more and more important as well. And especially when you look at how a revenue management function could take so many more different types of data in it and combine it together. So you're taking, John already talked about CRM data, or I think you might have done it at the beginning of the call. You have CRM data, you have marketing data, you have all kinds of data that you can use in revenue management, but it becomes so much data that you just need that AI to help you do that.
And kind of related to that, one of my former students had a wonderful term. He seemed like the boy next door that you go out and have a beer with, but he was really he was happiest sitting behind his spreadsheet. And I said he was very successful. And I said, how come you were so successful? I said, I'm a geek who can speak. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, because if you can't, if you could have, and now AI changes that even more. AI can do a lot of the geeky stuff, right? And so you better be able to speak. You better be able to explain it to people. You better be able to, as Hyunghwa talked about, is make those exceptions and say why you're making those exceptions. Because maybe it's more the speak who can geek. Actually, that would probably be a better one right now. The person who could speak and also geek. But speak is first, communication is huge. And then you look at the way that revenue managers are trained or selected. Is that always the way that we do it? I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And that's something we need to be thinking about.
And Sherry, I'll put you on the spot there. So, you always talked about how revenue management is both an art and a science. So, and then now, the technology is taking care of all the science part. So in your mind, is it still like a 50-50 kind of a art and science, or is it like a 80 science and a 20 art? Like, what's your take?
I always say I can't do math. I mean, it depends, right? It's like 80% math and 70% art. I mean, it really. I mean, I'm being flippant there, but the art is more. The art matters, and then the other part with this now too is in kind of designing the revenue management career path. A lot of the way we learn the art is by doing, right? And so if we have a new revenue manager coming in and they haven't had that experience to develop the art, how are they going to be able to, as Jürgen said, ask those questions? And so that's something that whether we're doing that in training or when they're in school is being able to, and what I was talking with one of my former students who teaches revenue management at Penn State. And she said one of the things that she's doing in class is trying to help the students. Help them be able to ask those right questions, because if they can't, they're not going to be able to move forward in what, even if they decide not to stay in revenue management.
Mhm. And so I think this whole impact on the talent landscape for revenue management and organizational design is a really interesting topic, and I'm going to go back to Tianghua here. So I'm still reflecting on some of those the real-time data dashboards that you showed me in person. So all the data, it can be quite overwhelming, although it allows real-time decision making. But I think I'm expecting that you kind of have to change the whole culture of decision making. And maybe talk us through some of the changes that you have to put in place in your property. Is it decentralizing decision making, empowering those who have access to those real time decision to make those calls? How did you guide the team through that change management process?
I think coming back to learning and development, I think is critical. Of course, we create that learning ecosystem in the hotel. Like example, now my revenue managers is actually attached to front office. My front office manager is attached to revenue. So we are creating that learning ecosystem, and consistently we are curious. We're curious about the new world. We're curious about what's happening in the AI, like example, the AI world on agentic AI. We used to do consolidation of data. Just recently, we then learning a new technology called edge computing. So we are going into that era again. If you ask me about 4 weeks ago, we are still doing ETL on data lakes, on looking at data through historical. But the future that we are building in the next 8 weeks later, we probably already jump on the edge computing. So we can really have real-time data that's not only on rooms revenue, F&B, it will be even for operations. So I think the future is all about agentic, predictive, prescriptive. In future it's about a live data-driven decisions that happen in the hotel.
And Jürgen, Sherry, any thoughts on change management for a time of real-time decision making, trusting the black box, decentralization of decisions?
Well, change management is always the most difficult part. And Tianghua, I mean, you are different than most general managers, and delightfully so, because many times, I mean, particularly when you get from my experience, general managers who don't necessarily have the same background, they're very resistant. And so when you don't have the general manager on your side, it's very, very, very difficult to make change. And I think that change management is one of those things that as tech people, we always say, oh well, yeah, just do it. And that's what my undergraduate students would say. Well, what's the problem? I mean, it's it's the right thing. Well, yes, it is the right thing, but to get people to go along with it, and the biggest thing with that is starting off small, and then as you start to build the momentum, then starting to add more things on, because it really, I mean, Jürgen, I see you smiling. I mean, change management, ooh, it's challenging.
It is. It's a huge challenge, and it's probably the biggest, how to say, driver of a project to fail or a project to succeed. Right? If it's managed well and if it's done well, then yes, no problem, the project will succeed. But if the project doesn't succeed, it's almost always change management, and it's not necessarily the revenue person. It can be different parts in the organization. If you can't get your reservations team on board and get them to enter the reservations in the correct way, for example, for your tracking and for your data, to get your data organized, it's gonna fail. What I do think, though, and because we're talking a bit about AI and how is that going to help, I think AI is going to definitely help the change management process. It's going to be much easier for somebody to communicate with a system. I'll give an example of how that could work. Maybe if you're looking at a particular weekend where business is going to be strong, and you could ask the revenue system, okay, so tell me, and let's say the revenue system's name is Jerry, tell me, I think for that weekend your price is too low. I think you should up it by $20. And then the AI Jerry comes back and says, well, you could do that. This would be the impact. You would lose about $3,000 in revenue. So I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would leave it at maybe where it is, and maybe closer to the date, a week out, you up it by $5. And you would have a much better result. So it would talk to you like that, or would answer your question like that. This makes change management much, much easier, rather than having to dissect data, look at reports, all those kinds of things. And that's where AI will make a difference in that whole process. Will we still need change management? Yes, absolutely. It will not go away at all. That's going to stay. We just have to make sure we manage it as good as possible.
And I know we have a fair number of general managers in the audience today. It's a huge role. I mean, apart from running operations, and then you've got labor challenges, and and then now you've got AI. Who do you think is the best AI advocate in a hotel? And does a hotel GM, Kyung-Hwan, needs to be on top of technology, also be an AI expert to be able to drive change in the property?
I wouldn't say GM has to be the expert. I think coming along as my era or my age, as I want to continue to be employable, I need to jump into knowing AI, to understand and start to probably embrace and coexist with them. I met a MD of a company. He said that he can become an MD thanks to computer. So in the late 80s, because the former MD didn't want to use computer, so he can take over him in 2 years' time. If not, he would have to wait about 10 more years. And now it's the same era. If you don't coexist with AI, you probably will be the one that doesn't want to use a computer 25 years ago. So I think it's a journey to coexist with them and learn how to co-pilot them. I always said these two coexist and co-pilot, because AI is not going away. AI is going to live longer than us. And as we go into the AI world and our owners are changing, the second generation owners or the third generation owners, they are 32 years old. They came back from Harvard or Cornell University. If you talk to them about the old traditional static sales versus distribution versus AI, I think you become more employable in terms of your career. So I want to work for another 10 years, so I need to embrace on AI and know how to co-pilot AI and coexist with them, because I met some owners that is 32 years old, and most of them changing to 32 years old generation owners. When you talk to them about AI, you attract their interest. They will hire you for sure.
But I suppose you have to go beyond just the surface level, like AI, Gen AI, ChatGPT, but you actually have to be able to have a fair amount of understanding on applications, implications, and impact.
I would argue that I don't think the GM has to be an expert, but it has to be the advocate. And so having some knowledge is probably fine. You've got people working for you who have the knowledge, but you have to be the advocate, because otherwise you'll have all these people working for you who are kind of spinning their wheels, and they can't really move forward without the GM. I mean, if the more you can learn about it, actually you'll like it. And as you get into it, you'll enjoy it even more, but you don't have to be an expert by any means. And I agree in the 32-year-old owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are a very fortunate nation in Singapore. Our government sponsor 90% of our study. Yeah, we have Skill Future in Singapore. So basically, you need to pay 10% of your cost fee. There's nowhere in the world that the government will pay 90% for you and you pay 10%. So we are a very fortunate nation. We embrace lifelong learning. Yeah.
And Jürgen, Sherry, likewise, when you meet potential, whether it's potential clients or students, Does the topic of AI come up very much, or is it like top of mind?
Pretty much, I wouldn't say every single sentence, but very, very often, yes, definitely it does. And even the 30-year-olds, I have to say, they struggle with it sometimes, right? Because they are, even though they're the next gen owner or the new generation of owners, they still sometimes have to go to dad or mom to say, can you open the wallet because I want to get this thing? And the question is, how do they explain things? But yes, it comes up all the time.
And I think also for, when we still get into students or people just starting out their careers, I hear it all the time. Okay, I've trained to become a financial analyst. Oh, my job's going to be gone. So how do I future-proof myself? And so it comes up all the time. And if you're just starting off in your university career or just graduated, that's a big concern. And if you don't think of, and if people aren't thinking about it, which is why I hear about it so much, is that they could end up basically what they've trained for isn't there anymore. And that's again why you need if you're not going to be the owner when you graduate, which most people aren't, is that you need to get yourself somewhat knowledgeable so you can see how you can leverage it, and that will help you stand out.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just 5 more minutes before we go into live Q&A. So we're just going to look into the future for a quick bit. Is there an area in hotel revenue management, Sherry, that you'll like to see AI tackle?
Oh, I would like it. What I would really like it to be able to do is to take all of the reports and just summarize it and tell me what to do. I mean, I know it can do all the forecasting and optimization. That's really not that difficult. But if it could pull together all of those reports, and even if you don't have a computerized revenue management system, to me, that's the thing to do. Start there. Why spend hours and hours going through, not to pick on our Smith Travel friends, but going through a STAR report and doing a summary of it and putting it into your Excel spreadsheet when you could just stick it into AI and you'll have a result from that probably, I don't know, probably less than a minute.
How far away do you think we are from total hotel revenue management beyond rooms? Do you think AI will be able to unlock the potential of that?
Assuming we get data. The data
That's a good
is
question.
always dirty, but I think that as we start to take away some of the more tedious, I mean, not tedious, but some of the more routine parts of the revenue management job, that frees up the time to be able to start looking at other revenue streams. Because now, I mean, the revenue manager in the studies I've done, they're too busy. I mean, they got to go through all these reports. They've got to put together, I mean, they got to read them, they got to analyze them, they got to put together reports, got to do all this kind of stuff. They don't have time to do the other things. And so this gives us that opportunity, but at the same time, that goes back to a training sort of thing, making sure that people are aware of how they should approach it. But the data is usually the bottleneck.
I love that thought of AI removing the manual task and actually allowing you to think about other ways to optimize, hotel revenue and going to total hotel revenue management. Like that to me sounds like quite the dream. And what about Jürgen? I mean, beyond dynamic pricing, where do you see AI creating the biggest impact in revenue optimization, say over the next 2-3 years?
First of all, I think it's going to be much quicker than in the next 2 or 3 years, right? The development pace is picking up so fast with all the new technology that is out there. Where revenue management is going to change is that it's going to create this commercial function that includes so much more of the data that we have. We have huge amounts of data, but because we have so much data and we never had a good system to do anything with it at a hotel, we were never really able to do much with the data. And that's where AI is really going to help, and it's going to make a big change. So if you look at a hotel that has data from their function area, data from their spa, data from their CRM, data from their staffing levels, data from HR when people call in sick and when they don't call in sick, all that data can kind of come together and you optimize the entire business, or you make the entire business more profitable. Anyway, and that's what's really going to happen, and it'll be fast. It'll come quick.
Sounds like a very exciting future. Intimidating, but also very exciting.
It is intimidating, and again, it's if you're the curious person, you'll find it very, very interesting. If you're the control type of person, you'll find it very, very daunting. So it depends on your attitude towards this kind of thing, on how you'll experience it. But I think it's super exciting, and I can't wait till some of this stuff really happens and see how it works and how it impacts a business like Chonghua when he's running 2 hotels. I mean, my God, you have a lot to do.
As for me, we have been working on data for a couple of years. We are seeing that we're going to reach a predictive model by end of this year, and then a suggestive model by next year. So yeah, so pretty exciting journey. As we grow stronger in terms of data, we also put agentic AI into our data. Coming back to data source, I think there are more advanced technology that you can scrap through the data now compared to last time. Last time you really have to know how to API them, how to do ETL. But now the technology has evolved, has changed, so things are a lot easy. I think coming along to suggestive selling, that will be a wonderful time for hospitality.
Okay, before we go into live Q&A, maybe something from each of you, one specific action that you recommend our audience take in the next 30 days to prepare their teams or their properties for this AI-enabled future.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. Well, if you're not, get them using AI to start off with, whether it's Claude or whether it's DeepSeek or whether it's ChatGPT. Encourage them to use it. And the other thing that's number one. And number two, take at least one of your reports and put it into one of those systems and see what it comes back with, just to kind of get people thinking about it. But that's kind of the baby step is, hey, use it at work. We know you use it at home, use it at work, and then see what they come up with, and then use it to kind of take away one of those tasks. Because when people see the results from that, they'll go, oh wow, wait a minute, that could really save me a lot of time. That's the sort of thing that I would say do that in the next 30 days. Do that this week if you can.
So just get started, start small, try something, and then see where that leads you.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, and I would say find a champion within your team or within the people that you work with who is really excited about it, and give them a voice to help with that start of change management bit. Find that person, and it might be the most unlikely person in your team. It doesn't necessarily have to be the tech person or the IT person or the revenue person. It could be one of the chefs, who knows, who is really excited about this thing. So find that champion and give them a voice, and let them help you to make that change in your organization.
I love that. So just start small, start with an advocate, could be anybody within the team, just someone who is eager to test and share their learnings.
Yep.
Chonghua?
Come and see me.
Come and see him.
Yeah, I actually don't mind to go through Horwath to do a learning journey. So you get to see the real world, what we are doing, and get excited about it in the next 30 days. There's a lot of low-hanging fruits about AI. This doesn't mean that you need to do a lot. Just probably come by and see what you get over the learning journey. Yeah.
Okay, so those located in Singapore, just drop by Park Royal Pickering. Those located outside of Singapore, you're going to come to Singapore and then drop by Park Royal Pickering. Okay, and then now I'll pass it on to Ben, who is going to host the Q&A. Ben, take it away.
All right, so jump right into it. So some of the questions that were asked is, I guess, for those who are on the ground, what AI-powered rate forecasting and pricing optimization solutions are currently leading the market, and how should hotels go about evaluating which ones to choose?
I feel like Jürgen's just dying to.
Yeah, I'll start off with that, and then maybe the others can join in. There are a lot of solutions out there, obviously. And all the solutions have different levels of AI in them or technology in them. They work in different ways. It's again, be curious when you evaluate a solution. So ask questions about, well, how does that work, and how does it do that, and how would that work in my organization? This is the way we work today. Does that solution work with the way I today run my business, or am I going to have to do some change management first, and then I can use a solution? So you want to see whether the solution can help you now, or if it can help you next year, and if there's maybe another solution that I need to use in the interim. So in some cases, when hotels have bad data, you might want to have a solution first that's going to give you clarity on what that data is and what needs to be done to fix it, and then you can go into a more AI-driven solution that requires better data, and bring that level of business up in your environment.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. I'm a huge proponent of fit for purpose. I've seen multiple cases where, someone attends a panel like this, they're really gung-ho and they go out and get the Lamborghinis of solutions, but you don't have the data, you don't have the team, you don't have the culture. So you basically kind of set up for failure. So definitely consider, what is the owner's appetite, for instance, for experimentation? How do you have the right people within the team? How far along are you in developing a culture of your tech enablement, and then actually pace out that road mapping? Start small, start early, get quick wins, and you can always, whether it's get on more sophisticated modules or look at more sophisticated solutions as the team grows along with that.
And I would add, don't be the first. Talk to their other clients. You don't want to be the pioneer for sure on this.
You don't want to be that. You don't want to be the guinea pig for.
No. Let somebody else do that, and then you could see. And I mean, I'm all for being a pioneer, but with some of the software, you want to see it work on someone else's system and be able to talk to those people before jumping in, because you don't want to find out the problems. You don't want to be the guinea pig that they refer to later on. I wish we would have known that.
In contrary, because of over the last 5 years, we've built a lot of capability. We like to be the pioneer. We like to we like to learn, test, build, and scale. So through a lot of learnings and testing, we actually learn a lot more. So I think at the different stage, you probably want to go for something like medium and heavier or large. But in our case, we at the era of learn, test, build, and scale. So I think it also suits into your organization capability, and also the size of your hotels, how, financially and your staff capability.
We know that Tiong-Hwa has to run in about 3 minutes. So if there's specific questions for Tiong-Hwa, please drop them in the Q&A now. Sorry, back to you, Ben.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess I'll direct a question to Tiong-Hwa then. So what training is required for your existing revenue managers to work effectively with your AI systems?
I must say, I'm very fortunate that I inherit when I came to this hotel with a very capable team. But over the last 12 months to next 12 months, we don't only want one skill. All of us in the hotel must learn 4 skills. So this is the attitude that we have. So other than revenue management, they also learn about channel distribution. Now they went to learn data science. The last but not least, they also went into operations. So I think it's all about multi-skill in your life, but you definitely have a core expertise. But I always say one skill in the modern world, you can't live long, and employability is going to be shorter. What I want to build here is a wider, longer path, career path for our people than a narrow and a shorter path for our people. So I think we at a different stage of life here. So we have that mentality of 4 skills in the hotel.
All right, thank you for that. And then another question. So because technology is advancing so rapidly, how long do you expect for the majority of hotels to start adopting AI-driven systems? And do you see the emergence of a fully integrated, unified platform that consolidates all of the revenue distribution and operational functions into just one big solution?
I think some hotels maybe may need a longer time. Some hotel has a wait and see attitude. Like us, we learn, test, build, and scale. So we are very much in the experimental time of our company. So we are very fortunate. Our owners has a lot of palette of putting AI into the business. Hence, it's a lot easy for me, but it's also not easy. I have to clear 5 boards before I can implement one technology in the hotel. So I think it's all about capability and continuous learning and be curious about what's happening. We are a little bit more fortunate because a lot of tech companies, including the government agencies, come and support us in Park Royal Collection Pickering. But if you don't have, there are plenty of fundings in Singapore to support your tech adoptions. There are 54 fundings availability in Singapore. So yeah, as high as 70%, as low as 30%. So there are many support in STB, IMDA, MTI, and SHA.
Okay, thank you for that. There's a question specifically for Jürgen. So AI infrastructure and compute costs. Yeah, thank you, Tenghua. Yeah,
Thank you very
feel
much.
free to
Thank
drop
you.
off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so question, aimed at Jürgen. AI infrastructure and compute costs continue to decline over time. How do you see that impacting the commercial model of revenue management system platforms? And should clients expect pricing efficiencies or primarily increased value through enhanced capabilities?
There's a lot in one question, I think.
Yeah.
It will continue to develop. I don't think there is a time or an area that it's not going to continue to develop. It's not only going to look at pricing, it's going to look at so many different things, right? And that I think that's where the development of AI is so fast. I was almost going to add to Chonghua's comment at the very end. Like, if you haven't started in your organization with anything AI, you're already behind. You're way behind. And you need to get on the ball. So if you're asking, what should I do? It's good that you're asking, but you're behind. But I don't think that it will in any kind of way hinder anything. It will continue.
And I think, kind of related to what Tianghua was saying is that yes, in Singapore, there's a lot of support, but when you start to get into, and Xunyi, this kind of moves into your world with owners, is that if I'm with a hotel chain versus, and I have owners and asset managers, a separate thing, there's a different incentive going on there. Will the hotels make the investment? Will the chains make the investment in AI? If they're still able to, if they're more on a franchise, they're selling hotels, whether they're in the management business, they're not in the ownership. And so then it becomes a matter of the owners driving some of this. And back to, Tianghua was talking about the 32-year-old owner. That's where it might come from, because will the chains, particularly more the North American chains where they've got more of the ownership structure is such that the chains might choose not to put that much money into it. And I don't know. Jürgen, what have you seen with that?
Yeah, and I think the bigger organizations, they tend to take advantage of having such a bulk, right? And that's where overall, if you look at the average cost per room, for example, because that's the way typically it's calculated in revenue management for systems and stuff like that, the average cost per room is going down. And also because tech development companies are able to use different technologies to scale their development as well and make it more efficient and make it more cost effective in a way. So these technology components are going to go down in price a bit, but they're also going to become more comprehensive at the same time. So you don't only get more value for money, you also get a much bigger opportunity to drive that top line, which in the end will impact your profit.
But yeah, let's go switch to profit. Just because we've been talking about revenue, but if I go back to the owner side, is that I don't care about your revenue. I care about my profit. And so, but the beauty with the advantage of AI and the possibilities of AI is that a lot of times our cost structure and so everything's in different systems. And this has got the capability of being able to move more towards, to GOP maximization or profit maximization rather than revenue maximization. Because in revenue, we are always focused on revenue, but the owner is more focused on profit. And Shinyi, I think you can. She's smiling. She knows that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because when we have conversation with the owner, sure, occupancy and rate, that is what I call the shiny veneer. But what I would truly care about, or advise the client to care about, is really look at how the operator is managing those profits for you. If you are driving, on the top line, but you are spending a ton of money to be able to do that, then all you're doing is maintaining a shiny veneer, but under the hood is not as healthy as it looks. So I am particularly interested in this, very interested in the development of these, more affordable solutions. As you can say, the cost of running these solutions per room has dropped. But if you continue able to, I mean, that's the whole thing about AI, being able to do more with less, then you'll be able to scale on the top and be able to do that, whether it's with more efficiency, more optimization. That, to me, as an owner or as an advisor to an owner, is very interesting. Maybe, Ben, we can have time for one more question, then we probably have to end.
All right. So I think on the flip side, do you see an over-reliance on AI as being an issue that will come up? And from there, where does the accountability come in?
I don't see it as an issue. It's a matter of how you use it, right? And so it's kind of like saying, well, it's kind of probably like 25, 30 years ago. Oh, what if we just rely on Excel all the time? I mean, how are we going to be able to do? I remember I had some students. I can't rely on that to do regression. I want to do it by hand. It's like, please have at it. I'm not interested in that. But I think we're using it as a tool. It's just kind of like other decision support systems we've had. This is at a different level than we're used to, but I don't see it becoming an over-reliance on that.
I would agree totally, Sherry, with that, because it's going to be part of our everyday life. We're just going to make better decisions by having all these things available to us. And I don't think we're going to shun responsibility and just say, well, the system told me to do this, I did it, and it was wrong, so it's not my fault. You're still the person managing that piece of intelligence, whether it's artificial intelligence or it's human intelligence, it doesn't matter. You're managing it. You're responsible for it. If you don't think it's doing the right thing, then you need to do something. So we're not going to become over-reliant. We're going to become more clever.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
So unfortunately, we've come to an end of the session. So I want to say a very, very big thank you to Professor Kimes and Jürgen for joining us today, and Ben for hosting the Q&A, and of course to everybody for taking the time to join us. We will be organizing more of these, so do look out for that. You can keep up with us in our LinkedIn page. But if not, then have a great week ahead and continue to watch this space, revenue management in the age of AI, which I'm sure will have more in store for us than we can even dream of today. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.